Coming up, Academy Award nominated and Emmy-winning actress Shirley Knight joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
That's right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. I am here with my lovely co-host, Tamara Berg.
Hi, everybody.
I'm getting a little bit of cashew butter out of my teeth. We always eat before the show.
It's always about the snacks.
Poor thing. And I'm so excited to be interviewing coming up Shirley Knight.
Oh my gosh.
Just an amazing actress. Beautiful melodic voice. I've always admired her work, especially in the movie The Rain People, but in other great films that she's been in. Dark at the Top of the Stairs, Sweet Bird of Youth. Many more, but so I'm very excited.
Yeah.
We're getting some amazing guests on the show.
We are, you guys. Just keep watching because we're going to have some amazing people continue to come on because we've already had incredible guests.
And we're going to, for our fan out there who asks us why we wear the gigantic headphones and with the gigantic mics, it's to match our gigantic egos. There's nothing. It's old school.
It's part of it is because there are multiple studios here, and
Yes.
so in order to hear the booth, we need to be able to wear these to hear.
Yes.
And but there is kind of the old school aesthetic. That was part of the founders, idea when doing that. So yeah.
I love it.
So we don't have to worry much about our hair because it always gets messed up with the headphones. So
True. I like the messy hair look.
You look good with the messy hair.
Thank you. It's my one look.
Okay, so we've got multiple award-nominated and winning people coming onto the show, and you are one of those people. We're getting into award season now. It's sort of like it's always award season in Los Angeles, it seems like. But you have been nominated for many things, and I want to talk about that, about awards in general. So first of all, what do you think about awards?
Well, it's always this tough time of year where you want what is great about the Academy is I guess the notion that more people will see a film because it gets nominated.
Yes.
My only complaint was they jammed everything a little bit earlier. It used to be like when we were kids, a movie was out for 6 months.
Yes.
And then it would go on a double bill, and then it would go to the drive-in. So you'd have an eternity to watch the film. But now there's this little window, and all the big, great films come out, November to December.
Yeah.
So you're kind of inundated. So I am an Academy member. So I'm running around. I'm trying to see as many of the films as possible. You are forced to then watch some of them home.
Yeah.
You're jamming through like sometimes 2 in a night just so I can vote. And that's not, of course, the way that I want to see all films. But if you get an opportunity to see a film on a big screen, I think it helps quite a bit. But huge fan, obviously, of the film Manchester by the Sea. Just a beautiful film. I saw another film which is not being mentioned for any awards called Patterson, Jim Jarmusch. Wonderful little quiet film that I just thought was beautiful. It's the usual suspects, I guess, with the awards, and I think that it puts the people on the map. But is our focus too much? I mean, by the time the Academy Awards comes along, there's just a little bit too many awards right now.
Yeah,
I guess.
well,
it's great to be. It always is nice to be nominated.
I want to hear more about. Literally, actually, how is it to be nominated? So you were nominated for an Academy Award for To Die For.
No, here's the interesting story. Everybody thinks that I was nominated,
including me. Sorry,
because
I know the story.
I was nominated for a lot of Critics' Choice Awards, etc. And but I got into the Academy because apparently I was like 4 votes shy of a nomination
For To Die For.
Yes,
Got it.
And so I got a letter saying that, so they invited me into the Academy because I guess I came I don't know who those 4 damn people were.
Rat bastards.
Screwed
We
me
gotta
over.
get to them.
Was it you, Tom Hanks? Ron Howard, was it you?
Rude.
It was the other
rude,
nominees.
rude.
That's
Oh,
why.
that's
Yes,
right. That's right.
exactly.
I'm in the academy. I don't even know how they. I believe actors. So sorry. No, wait. So it could have been. Anyway, so actors vote for other actors, but so that apparently I came very close. So
And were you aware of that when that was happening?
No,
Like, were
and
you
no-
aware? Were
no.
people talking? Oh,
No.
the Oscar buzz and things
no,
like that.
no. That did not. This is a recent phenomenon. People did not. In fact, I once had a conversation with Angie Dickinson, who was very, very memorable in Dressed to Kill.
Yes.
But she said, in our day, people didn't go out and, promote campaign for an Oscar nomination. So, she didn't get one, but you sort of imagine that she was nominated, for that. I was nominated for an Emmy for 6 Feet Under, and I was in a very tough category because I was against someone else who was pretty much a regular on 6 Feet Under.
Oh.
So it was kind of a long shot. But in that, it's so funny, I'm talking about Tom Hanks twice in the same. I can't believe it.
Maybe if we keep talking about him, he'll come on the podcast.
Yes, because
That's my strategy anyway. That's how I believe.
because I ran into him at something and he said, "Oh, you're gonna win for 6 Feet Under," and I didn't. And I remember, you go there and it's such a drag to
Yeah.
because the pressure of like the dress and what are you gonna wear, and that's the hardest part.
I'm sure.
The losing part's fine. The hardest part is what are you gonna wear, dieting, making sure your hair looks good, all of those kind of things.
I can imagine.
Luckily, it was, again, before they had massive, with iPhones and couldn't be caught tripping and things like that. I had a major brouhaha with my dress. I had like a big fancy dress, and the designer messed it up.
Oh no.
Yes. So at the last minute, they scrambled and they basically, it was like, here's a gunny sack. And they wrapped it around
great.
me. And it was a disaster. And I was so upset because I was supposed to have this beautiful frock. And I had based it on Natalie Wood's outfit from the film Gypsy. She has that white. I love that.
Oh yeah, the column dress.
Yes.
Yes.
That very 60s. Well, that's what I. That's
Yes.
that's what I was supposed to look like. Cut to me wearing some spangly, lime-colored. Oh my God, I was so.
Your moment in the sun.
I was
and
so unhappy, and at the time I was dating a very famous actor. One time I'll get drunk and blurt out his name.
fantastic. I should have put brandy in that cider. We
And
had
on the day of the award show, he came to my hotel. Yeah, I know you, John, is shaking your head.
God.
It's Illeana we're talking about.
Producer John
Boy,
on
I'm
the
a comedian.
couch.
Comes to my thing. He says, my manager thinks it's a very bad idea that I would go walk down since I've never been nominated. He thinks it's a very bad idea that I accompany you to, it would be a bad career move.
So you had to go solo.
So he literally told me, no, that's what gay friends are for.
Oh, okay. Beg your pardon.
You call up your gay best friend and cry, and then he came over with champagne, and we walked to the carpet, but I was like, boy, that's some manager.
Wow.
Wow.
I know. But I bear no grudge.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
we can
right.
tell.
As
We can
John
tell.
Milius says, no grudge is too small. I have resentments. No one who says, and again, I say this again, people who go, I have nothing but gratitude. No, they're lying. They're lying. They're lying. They're not, and then they get behind the wheel of the car, they practically run someone over. I at
they're
least
too slow to
admit,
turn.
I've got 5 or 6 resentments. I admit it.
She embraces her dark side.
She
It's
does.
not bad.
She does.
I feel like if you only hate like five or 6 people, that's not bad.
It's pretty good odds. Pretty good odds. Most of the people are.
I'm
ones that you
working on
like.
it. I'm working on it.
Just really quickly, I just want to ask, so what's your
Yes.
thought about awards? Do they increase, not from the perspective of receiving them?
Oh my God. I can't believe I'm.
Obviously, it increases like people's bankability because there's the public perception. But like,
Yes.
do you find them to be valuable personally? Like,
I
do you
find the
think-
Academy Award to be personally a part of the American film history. And
Yeah.
my grandfather won 2 Academy
Yes.
Awards. Actually, I own one of them. My cousin owns the other one. And I look at it, admire it, and hope to win. I mean,
Practice.
I personally would love to win an Academy Award. I
gonna.
think it's the highest pinnacle
Yeah.
for an actor in
but
this
not
society.
just for your own, not just for the self feeling of congratulatory feeling of winning an award. You probably want to just for the history of it as well. because-
Absolutely. For the history of it,
Yeah.
for what it represents. I mean, does it make me cringe, the commercialism of
Right.
it? Yes, it does.
Right.
But it's sort of like Christmas, you know what I mean?
Right.
You kind of go, all right, but down, but when you think of these, and I'm going to go for a threefer. Tom Hanks. When you think of his,
Hit the trifecta.
when he won, comedy goes to threes. I'm rounding it out because I want to work with Tom Hanks.
Okay.
Desperately.
We're going to make it happen.
He's an idol of mine.
I'm pretty sure he listens to the
He's
podcast.
like the Jimmy Stewart of our era. I mean, he can do anything.
Absolutely.
I'd watch him in anything. But when he won, the great speeches, the dresses, that's it is veered too much towards the great borrowed dress, the great jewelry. I much preferred it when Cher showed up in her own Bob Mackie.
Yep.
And there was a certain individual style that I believe is missing.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But the award itself, the history of the award, I think is incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think we should bring in
that note-
Shirley.
On that note, an Academy Award winning, and you may know her from her illustrious career in theater and in television, Oscar, Tony, and Emmy nominated roles. So please welcome Shirley Knight, who I have watched in many, many films and admired. And now we get to
Here she
talk
is
to
in
you.
person. So
Yes.
exciting.
So have a seat, Shirley. Let me know if you are comfortable. And we've got Ed here. Ed, you hold that purse very well, I have to say.
You can throw it on the floor, for heaven's sake. You don't need to. There's so much junk in it. There's always, I don't know, why do we have so many things that we have to have in our purse?
I know it's a large. Well, in case there's, you need an emergency. Now, do you have a flashlight? I always carry a flashlight.
Oh, that's interesting. I have a little one, yeah.
Yeah, flashlights always. I can't tell you how many times I've helped people with my
Show
gigantic.
them to their seat?
Oh yeah. No, you'd be surprised.
It's your part-time job as
Well,
an usher.
Actually, what it's for is finding things in your purse.
Ah, okay.
The bottomless
that's-
pit
That's
of the
really
purse.
the purpose of it.
I have a fear of falling, and then my second biggest fear is my mother falling. So I always have,
Right.
I'm like, no, as a daughter. That's why I'm like, please, Mom, don't
Yes.
fall.
Did
Oh,
you give her
for
a
sure.
flashlight?
Listen, I have entered the phase of my life because I turned 80, and I have entered this phase of my life, which is my 3 daughters are the bosses.
Uh-huh.
They are the ones that do all of the role that I thought I had.
Yes.
I no longer have.
And
know.
do you enjoy that, or
Sometimes it depends.
it's a balance.
Yes,
I know with-
it can be a little bit. Sometimes you have to say, it's okay. I can walk.
Aw, that's so sweet though, but it's true. I get every day whenever my mother calls me, because I'm like, just please don't fall. That's my. And we used to tease her when we were growing up too. We'd come in and we'd cover my mother's worst fear is that we'd lose an eye. I don't know why that was her bizarre thing, but we'd come in, Mom, like that, and she'd freak out to tease her. All right, enough of
Losing
playing.
an eye or falling down. This is, I like it.
We're Italian, it's doom and gloom in our, everything is. They grew up in the Depression, so it was a little bit of doom. And my grandmother was an immigrant, so tough times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Indeed.
living it. But enough of the Italian family. We always start the show, Shirley. I don't know if Ed told you, and I actually know the answer because I did some research. The first movie that you ever saw. Do you remember the first movie you ever saw, and who took you to it?
My parents, and
Oh.
it was Bambi.
It was you saw Bambi. And you also saw, oh wait, I guess we need, gotta
come a
move
little
you
closer to the
little bit
mic.
closer to the mic
Yeah.
there.
You scoot in a little.
How's that?
No,
Is that
no,
better?
If you can just scoot in a little closer to it.
Oh,
Very good. Okay,
There you
great.
go.
Thank you.
Aha,
There you go.
perfect.
Yes.
okay.
And you saw Bambi, but then you also saw a movie called The Dolly Sisters.
That's correct.
And I've never even heard of this film. So
I-
what is The Dolly Sisters?
Well, first of all, I only saw 3 movies as a child
Oh, my.
because I was born and not born, but raised in a town of 13 houses,
Wow.
1 Methodist church, a 2-room schoolhouse where Mrs. Rhodes taught 1 through 4 and Mr. Rhodes taught 5 through 8, and a granary for the wheat.
Wow.
And that was until I went to high school. So if we went to a movie, it was a big event because it was
Sure.
22 miles away.
Wow.
And so we saw 3 movies. Bambi, The Wizard of Oz, and the Dolly Sisters, because my mother wanted to see the Dolly Sisters. And I fell in love with this movie, much more than the other 2, which I found a little frightening because I hadn't seen that kind of movie before. But the Dolly Sisters was about these 2 sisters who were in vaudeville, and they sang and danced.
Oh.
And it was Betty Grable and June Haver.
Oh, okay.
And they wore all these extraordinary costumes that were just amazing. And the first thing that happened is that my little sister and I asked if we could please, if they had paper dolls, because they used to have paper dolls from movies, and so I was bought the paper dolls for this and played with them for years. And when I was going to do Sweet Bird of Youth, I was told to go to meet the costumer. And it was the man who designed the costumes.
Wow.
For
For-
the Dolly.
And I was over the moon. I couldn't have cared less about Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward. I mean, nobody. I said, oh my goodness, you know, and I met him. And the first thing I said was, oh, I had the paper dolls. It was so embarrassing, I suppose. But he said, well, you're going to like this very much because I'm making you a beautiful dress out of handkerchiefs, white handkerchiefs. And he made this beautiful dress.
Wow.
And, but that was was so amazing, you know.
What a great story. And I had read that originally that you had thought of being a singer, but that you went to see
Yes.
Maria Callas. And then
Yes,
somehow-
yes. I studied to be an opera singer all the way through my junior year in college. And I still wanted to be an opera singer, and in those days, in colleges, they didn't teach acting, and I knew I had to learn acting if I was going to sing in the opera. And I thought, how am I going to do this? I was in Wichita, Kansas, at Kansas State University, and I had a job as an assistant society editor for the woman who was the society editor for the Wichita Beacon. And they got magazines. And one day there was a magazine, and it was about, it was a theater arts magazine. And so I started looking at this every month and thought, oh, this is so interesting. And suddenly there was a magazine that came in, and it said that you could go to the Pasadena Playhouse for $200 in the summer and study acting for 6 weeks, and it was $200 room and board. And I took another job. The first television station had opened in Wichita, and it was, and they needed people, and I was the person who held up next on the news and stuff like that, and so I got some more money, and made almost enough money to go, and then my parents gave me the rest, and I got on the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe Railroad, and I went to study acting at the Pasadena Playhouse, and I was a total novice. I had never acted in my life, and basically I think what I did is what I did when I sang, which I always sang about what I was singing about. And for some reason they thought I was talented. I was 19. I was green as grass. I was and I would say things like, well, no, I'm just doing this for my singing. It was all about that. And at the end of the time, they had people come who were agents. And this agent thought I had potential. And we did House of Bernarda Alba, and I was the one that cried a lot and was the youngest one because I look so young for my age. And anyway, he took me, he said, I want to take you to my agent. And I was still, no, I'm going to be a singer, And he said, well, I think you have potential. So he takes me to his agent, and it turned out that his agent was the main agent for women in Hollywood. His name was Kurt Frings. He handled Elizabeth Taylor, Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, Eva Marie Saint, everybody.
Not bad.
Yeah.
And I come in with my thick glasses, because I was basically legally blind, and wearing an ordinary dress and looking 15. And he took one look at the man who brought me, and he said, why do we want her? Were you drunk? And in the meantime, and this is probably what changed my life in a weird way, I was looking at a painting on the wall. The previous year, I had taken an art appreciation course, and I was looking at this painting. I wasn't even listening to them anymore because I thought this is hopeless anyway. And I was just looking at this painting. And suddenly, Kurt Frings said, do you like that? And I said, is it real? Because I couldn't fathom. Because I knew that this was a very important painter and, from my class.
Yes.
And he said, well, come in tomorrow, take off the damn glasses and wear your prettiest dress. I go in the next day, he takes me to MGM, they offer me a 6-month contract, $400 a week.
Wow.
And then he takes me to Warner Brothers, and they do the same thing, and it was because it was him. And he said, I think you should go with MGM. It's a more important studio, blah, blah. And I said, I think I feel more comfortable at the other place. And he said, well, it's only 6 months. It's not going to matter. So, yeah, I'll go there. Well, it did matter because whoever was looking after me, I don't know who that was.
Yes.
But whatever, fate was looking after me. A film came up for a 15-year-old girl, and it was called The Dark at the Top of the Stairs, and they hired me to be the girl. Dorothy McGuire was my mother, Robert Preston was my father.
Of course.
And I had this amazing part and was nominated for an Oscar.
I know it
was
First film, first job.
absurd. Truly
Now, I have
absurd.
a question for you. First of all, the pluckiness to just, was anyone looking after you? Did you have a room when you were living in California at the time and you're signed with Warner Brothers? Where do you?
I lived at the Hollywood Studio Club.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
That's so romantic.
Oh, I mean, you know, we had to be in by 10 o'clock. It was like being in college.
Right.
Really.
Oh, I bet.
And it was all women, and you had to be either an actress or a dancer or a singer to get in, and it was operated by the wives of people in the business. And their whole thing, these women, was about trying to protect young women.
Yes.
Because I think at one point there was a young woman who was murdered, and that was a terrible thing. And I think that this facility was great, and so I lived there.
It sounds like the movie Stage Door. Like it was
Yes.
everybody coming in and out. So now the film Dark at the Top of the Stairs, now if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it take place in Kansas?
Yes.
Well, that's
And it's William Inge. And
a remarkable...
when I met William Inge on the set, he looked at me and he said, you look like you could be a girl from Kansas. And I said, I am a girl from Kansas. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that was bizarre.
Shirley, at what point did you sort of relent to the idea of becoming an actress and not being a singer?
When this was all happening, and when I was nominated for an Oscar and so on, but also I went to see the wonderful singer.
Maria Callas.
Yes,
Yes.
Maria Callas. Thank you. Things happen when you get to be 80. It's amazing. It's like, what's that name? Anyway, and I sat there, and I have a very nice voice, but I am a light soprano. So all the parts that I would have played would be probably the French, Mozart, a lot of Lieder, and I wanted to play all the strong women in the parts, you know. And when I sat in that theater and watched her sing, and I said, I'm never going to be that good. And whatever it is I do in this life, I'm going to work so hard and be the best at it. And because I just had to do that. And that was that. But I still sang, by the way. I used to do concerts, a lot of Lieder around the country and so on.
So when you're on the set, I mean, and you're working with these heavyweights, Robert Preston, Eve Arden, you know, Dorothy McGuire, Angela Lansbury.
Yes.
But she was maybe, I guess, no, she's a lot older than you. I mean, these are the heavyweights of Hollywood.
What was amazing about her is that I was doing the scene where I'm crying when my mother tells me that the boy has died. And it was an over-the-shoulder shot. And we did a take, and Angela was standing off to the side, and she said, this film is going to open at Radio City Music Hall. It's a very big theater. And this is a trick for you. She said, whenever you have an over-the-shoulder shot, which I didn't even know what that meant. But she explained and said, you know, she said, you must always only look at the person's eye nearest to the camera. Because if you're looking at both of her eyes, your eyes will go like this. And that was like a gift. Just a gift from this amazing woman. And I was always telling other young people as I got older, I would say, if it's an over-the-shoulder shot, be sure, you know.
Angela Lansbury told me that.
Angela Lansbury. and about, 3 years ago, I think it was, she was doing a show on Broadway, and we ran into each other at Sardi's. And there were a whole bunch of young people who were in the play with her. And I said, "Do you remember, Angela, when you told me that?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "That was such a wonderful thing that you did, you know." And all the other these young actresses, what was it? What was it? You know. And I thought, she's going to tell them all.
Yes.
And that'll be good.
Yes.
It's a present for them.
And what about, and then you have Robert Preston, who's coming off of The Music Man.
Yes.
I once had the privilege of very briefly meeting him, as my grandfather was an actor, Melvin Douglas, and he was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame posthumously the same year that Robert Preston was, and Robert Preston was alive. And I mean, I spent 10 minutes talking to him, and it was incredible. I mean, just
such a nice man.
Funny,
and
charming.
Dorothy McGuire and Angela and everybody, they were just so nice, and it was a wonderful
experience.
To happen, yeah.
And now cut to the Oscars where you're there with your dad, and that's a kind of a funny story of who was your dad sitting next to at the Academy?
Shirley Temple.
Oh my.
And I was named after Shirley Temple. And I sat there, and I was like, the whole time I was saying, "Daddy, please, please don't tell her, Daddy, please don't tell her." Of course he did. He said eventually, you know, and of course everybody was named after Shirley Temple, you know. Shirley MacLaine is named after Shirley Temple. Shirley Jones is named after Shirley Temple. Shirley Knight is named after Shirley Temple. But at any rate, and of course he said, "You know, I named my daughter after you." And I was like, oh, embarrassed.
Amazing.
But she was very gracious and wonderful, so.
Well, that must have been quite a thrill, though, to be at the Academy Awards. I mean, your first time out.
Yes.
Did it ever, I mean, you seem sort of is this part of being from Kansas? Like, it all at this point seems to be coming extremely naturally. I do a film, I at the Academy Awards, I'm sitting next to Shirley Temple. I mean, did any of it faze you at all?
I think it's so interesting that you should say that. I think that once I adjusted to this new life, and knew that I was never going back to Kansas to live, you know, I was never going to be in this house of 13, this town of 13 houses, and so on and so forth. I think I was always very grateful, and then the thing that happened to me, and I think Geraldine and Paul Newman and Mildred Dunnock, and that film, Sweet Bird of Youth, I suddenly had another epiphany, I guess you would say, and that was that I think I need to get to be the best at this. To really be the best at this, I need to study more. I need to do theater. I need, you know, and that was when I sort of changed yet another aspect in my life, and moved to New York and started doing masses and masses of theater, and I was so grateful because I personally, this is just my opinion, I don't think you get better if you only do film and television. You reach a certain level and it's fine, but the depth, and when you're doing a role like when I did Streetcar, for example, I did it twice, 2 different directors, 2 different actors, everything, because I hadn't quite finished my work on it. And Tennessee, as you know, I was very close to, and when he came backstage, And he said, I finally have my Blanche. I was like, that moment helped me understand, oh, I can do this. I can move people. I can, and there were so many plays that I did that I'm just so proud of. And I like the films, you know, and that's wonderful. And I think Dutchman, of course, is, I feel like that's pinnacle.
Yeah, a great film.
The
very
pinnacle.
underrated.
And the fact that I produced it as well, you
Yes.
know, and we won Cannes and we won Venice and we won the British thing and all of that. It was so wonderful. And I mean, the sad thing about that film, because it was so political, Hollywood would have nothing to do with it. We tried to get it nominated, and they were like, "You've got to be kidding!
Yeah.
This is, this is not going to happen." Maybe if it was done now, maybe.
Well, or to be rediscovered. I wanted to ask you about what you're saying about Tennessee Williams, and you said, now I found my right Blanche. Does that mean that because some of the other Blanches were too extemporaneous, too over the top, too... I mean, of course, when you think of the movie and Vivian Leigh, and
Yes.
you know, it's been almost caricatured.
I don't know. I think I was born to play all his people. They were just natural for me. But I've always looked at acting, I suppose, in, I guess, a different way. I don't know. But for me, it's about absolutely being in the moment, and never deciding what you're going to do or how you're going to play it or whatever. And people say, "Oh, how can you do plays for so long?" I said, because it takes a long time to get every single aspect of the person. I mean, when I did Kennedy's Children, for example, I did it 7 months on Broadway, and then I went on tour. And when I got to San Francisco, which was the second to the last place that I was doing that play, I will never forget this. I finished that performance, and I said, okay, I've got her. And I knew I had finished my work on that. And that's what it takes. If you're going to be fine at it, if you're going to be really good at it, that's what you have to do. It's an awful lot of work. And I think the problem is, and I see young people young talented people in films, and they don't progress as much, you know, because they're not going through that process, which is a long process and takes a lot of care and a lot of sacrifice, because you have to decide, do you want to be rich? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to win awards? Do you want to do this? Blah, 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 all that. Or do you want to be an artist? And if you want to be an artist, it's a different world. It's a different place that you go into. And it takes a while to get there. Because, of course, there were aspects of my career where I thought, oh, this is wonderful. You know, I'm doing another film, and it's all la, 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 and all that. But that's not what being an artist is. You know, I never had a press agent. I never did any of that stuff because it never was important to me. I didn't care necessarily if people knew who I was or didn't know who I was, or you know, because the people who know are people like Tennessee. You know, people who, they get it. And that's what's important to me.
Well, when you have a relationship, I mean, talking about the great, one of the greatest playwrights of all time. And do you think it's harder as an artist currently to keep those standards, to keep that fire burning as an artist when it doesn't feel, I find myself, that's the toughest thing, is when around you go to work on something and everyone's looking at their watch and, there's no Tennessee Williams in sight, that, how do you face that?
I think the main thing is this. If you only do film and television, you're not going to progress as an actor. It's not going to happen. And I think what does happen, unfortunately, is that if you stay in that world and you stay in that famous world and all of those things, look what happens to people, and it's very sad. It's very sad. So I think that people make choices, and I think it's fine if you make a choice that you're going to, I don't know, do whatever kind of work. It's fine, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to progress as an artist. You might be famous.
There was a play that you did, Chekhov's The Three Sisters, and this was a play that was in my reading, comes up again and again. I believe even Sanford Meisner, who was my teacher, referenced this as being one of the great productions that everyone at the time who was an actor in New York went to see the production of The Three Sisters. So you were in the play, and I guess it's maybe talking a little bit about Chekhov, the studio, and why this particular play why has it been referenced so much?
Well, I think, first of all, The Three Sisters, it was Geraldine Page and myself and Kim Stanley. And we were so perfect for those parts. And then you had all these other wonderful actors in the play, and it was the first play that oh my goodness,
Lee Strasberg.
Lee Strasberg, thank you, had done and directed in a very, very long time. And we had Tamara Dekhanova in the play, who had been in the Moscow art production of it. So it had all of this history, and these wonderful people in it, and I was thrilled to get the part. I was surprised. But Lee, by then I was a member of the Actors Studio, and I would do scenes every week. I would go in and do just everything I could possibly do. And so I think eventually he felt, well, I'm going to put her in the play. And I was thrilled. It was my Broadway debut.
Again, we don't speak so much about Chekhov. I personally love Chekhov. And I guess just talking about what his plays mean and why they're important to read for a young actor in particular.
Well, I think he was such an interesting man. I find. He was just as a writer and a man, and the fact he was a doctor and everything was just fascinating to me. And I read all of his books and his acting courses and all of those things, and I think he just had he obviously had a feeling about people, and I find he's very like Tennessee. in a sense, in that they're both funny.
Yes.
They both have this wonderful comic aspect to their work. And I think life is like that. And sometimes we don't, we can be in this tragic situation, and we have to find a way to get through it, whether it's that we're in a time when people are not accepting what's going on in the world. We were talking about that earlier. How is it? I said to Ed, I said, how is it possible that there are still people that don't believe in global warming? Or how is it possible there are still people that don't believe in evolution? How is it possible? Why can't we put banners up or something? I mean, so you have this, your life. I mean, because I'm writing a book, I realized I was born during the Second World War. I went through all of these wars, the Korean War, all of these wars, everything that has happened since. And you get heartbroken, But at any rate, I think that we only have two things in life that keep us leveled. And that is art and science. And we have to embrace that. We have to take care of it and embrace it and help the human condition, I think. And I think art is right up there.
Amen.
I agree.
And it's no accident that the first thing that bad people do is want to get rid of art.
I guess
that's not an accident.
in what way is it not an accident? I'm curious, because because art represents what, contributing to society or a unification? Because I agree with you, but
I think it's because if you have a propensity for violence as a means to solve a problem, you can negate art and science and that's sad. It's just sad that people are not able to embrace reality. I mean, it's just it's heartbreaking. I think it just hurts your heart.
That's sort of what I was getting when you were speaking about it. It's that when you take away the artistic expression, it's like hitting people right where they live, in their spirit, in their as you're gesturing and I'm gesturing towards your heart, and sort of the core of what creates inspiration when one is creating the art as well as one is receiving the art. It has everything to do with sort of breaking the spirit, I think, when these people come in and try and kill arts as a act of defiance.
Well, because it is, at its finest, it's showing the human condition, and that is important. And you take that away, and you live in a narrow place without art and without science, without thought, without knowledge, that you're entering into that darkness. You're entering into the dark ages again, for heaven's sake.
It elevates people to be conscious. I know I shouldn't be speaking, but it elevates people to be conscious. And when you're conscious, you are able to make choices.
Yes.
So you can't be controlled. And so when you can make choices, you're free.
Of course.
And,
Yeah.
and when you're free, there's a problem with the government. When you're free, you don't go along with things.
Speaking of freedom, we don't have that much time left, but I wanted to talk about one of my favorite films of yours that you did with Francis Ford Coppola, which is sort of I always think it's the kind of female equivalent to Easy Rider.
I love that film. I love it. I absolutely love it. I was sad that it wasn't the success I felt it should have been.
Well, now it is. Good. We're talking about the film The Rain People, which it plays on Turner Classic Movies quite a bit. That's how I discovered it.
Right.
Like, just, what is this? I'm sorry. I think I literally tuned in and it was, you'd picked up James Caan in a car, and just visually it was interesting to me, and I watched it, and then since then I've seen it, of course, full length, and incredible performance.
I love that film. I just love it. And we had so much fun making it. And
how did you get involved in the film?
Francis, I was in England doing a film, and Francis came to England. I was living in a little cottage in Hampstead, and he came and he said, I have this film, and I want you to do it, and do you mind reading it now? and I said, are you hungry? He said, yes. I said, and I fixed him some fish and had him eat while I read it. And then he played a bit with Caitlin, who was, I don't know, about 6 or something. And I said, great, let's do it, and we did it.
And was there any improvisation in the film?
Oh, yes, we did a lot.
It has that feel.
Yeah.
Although it's beautifully shot.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, that's what elevates it. And your relationship with James Caan is just, it's really touching.
So sweet.
And you're running, the basic story, you're a housewife, and it's sort of of the time.
Yes, it was very much a women's lib kind of movie. And we were all there, right?
Yes.
We were all doing all of that with my friend Eve Ensler. Anyway, I like that film a lot, I think, and I'm glad people are watching it. That's nice.
It's a beautiful film, and you mentioned the Dutchman is another film that people can watch. And then currently, which I think is so great, you've been in all these comedies.
That is amazing to me because I am not known as funny. I blame Harold Ramis, actually. He's the one I blame because he put me in Stuart Saves His Family. And I said, you've got to be kidding. What are you doing? And then, of course, Good as it gets, and all those other things, and
Paul Bart, Mall Cop.
In my old age,
and sequels.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm very. It's very humorous to me because I did this film called Grandma's Boy, and it's very naughty, which and there I'll be walking down the street in New York, and there'll be, I don't know, 15-year-old boys, and they will take out their film, their cameras,
yes,
and they will say, look, I have you on my, I'm like, oh my God, I'm 80 years old, and these people want my autograph, and they have me on because I'm in Grandma's Boy.
That's terrific.
Playing, and I play a drug addict, of all things.
Of course.
Fantastic. Why not?
Why not? Why not?
Well, Shirley, it's been such an honor to have you here and talk to you. And I'm looking, what's the name of your book?
Yes.
Do you have a name yet?
What have we decided to call this book?
The temporary is Shirley Knight, A Life in Stories.
Yeah.
A Life in Stories.
Excellent.
It's because it's all stories. Because it's the only way I could write it. So, and I'm writing such absurd things in this book that I don't know. But I've been reading singer Bruce Springsteen's biography, and he said that it took him, I think it was 6 years to write it. Yeah. And I thought, Oh, thank God. Thank God. Maybe I can have a little more time about this. But it's an interesting. It's interesting.
Well, I look forward to reading it.
Yes, so
Me
much
too.
looking forward to
I
it.
look forward to finishing the darn thing.
Oh, you will. I'm sure you will.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Shirley, for
thank
being
you so
with
much.
us.
Oh,
Thanks
it's
for
my
being
pleasure.
with us.
You can
Thank
buy
you.
Illeana's book
Yes,
on Amazon.com.
my book.
Oh, my
It's out at
goodness.
bookstores now.
Lincoln
It's a
and
great
Supper.
read.
Oh.
Also, fans, you can like our Facebook page and go to our website, illeanaspodcast.com.
Yes, and as we always say, my life, everyone's life, is a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is the end of our show. Thank you again, Shirley Knight. And thanks, everyone, for
Thanks,
watching.
everybody. See you next time.
Thanks, Tamara.
That
For
was
producers
fantastic.
Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.